There's something I've seen happen to homeowners more than once, and almost nobody realizes it's happening until they try to sell. They assume they have equity and they can sell the house no problem. And then they get the payoff numbers and the math doesn't work the way they expected. Sometimes it's because of a financed upgrade on the house. Sometimes it's a refinance or even a home equity loan. And sometimes it's just that life changed faster than their timeline did. They bought at the height of the market and then the market went down. After helping people through situations like this, I've started noticing the same pattern over and over again. It's one of the most common reasons a house either becomes harder to sell or can't sell at all. I worked with a couple in their 60s who bought what they expected to be their forever home in San Antonio. He was a welder, they were doing well financially at the time, and the house was new construction, so everything felt stable and predictable when they moved in. After they settled in, they added $40,000 of solar panels, financed, and then they financed a $4,000 water softener, financed a walk-in jetted tub for $17,000 due to joint pain. That one alone added about $600 a month to their expenses. And each decision made sense for them individually, but then as hours were reduced to part-time, they took a forbearance on the mortgage while they tried to stabilize things, and she started driving DoorDash to help cover expenses. Eventually, they fell behind on HOA payments. At one point, their electricity was shut off. When they decided to move to Wyoming to be closer to family, the expectation was they would simply sell and relocate. But the financed solar panels, water softener, and walk-in tub were all liens secured by and attached to the house that had to be paid off at closing, and it pushed them into a position where they owed more than the house was worth. The only reason we were able to sell that house is because they had a 2.75% interest rate, which made the loan attractive enough for a buyer to take over via owner financing along with the liens. The sellers walked away with $8,000 cash. And at the time, it felt like a success. Years later, I followed up with them. They never made it to Wyoming. They were living in a homeless shelter outside San Antonio, and he was on hospice. It's one of the situations I still think about sometimes. There's an extra $61,000 of equity, all the equity eaten up by the financed upgrades could have made a big difference for them in the end. I've seen similar situations with other homeowners too. One happily married couple in their 30s moved here from Colorado after the husband received a strong job offer. Like a lot of people relocating to San Antonio at the time, they bought. Once they arrived, at some point they financed $40,000 in solar panels, and COVID hit and he lost his job. Because the loan was FHA, secured by the government advanced funds to the bank to bring the mortgage current. Because those funds aren't paid monthly and don't show up on the mortgage statement, many homeowners don't realize those advances become liens and have to be repaid when the house is eventually sold. In their case, it was for $55,000. Later, there's another advance of about $13,000 plus a private lien from a relative for a second $55,000 and another $3,000 to the HOA. At some point, they moved back to Colorado. At some point that period, marriage also fell apart. By the time they're ready to sell, they owed about $75,000 more than the house was worth. They owed too much, and the interest rate was too high for even an investor to take it on. Even the short sale specialist I referred them to said there's nothing that could be done due to the solar panel lien. He's been doing short sales for over 20 years and had never seen a solar panel company release their lien on the house to facilitate a short sale. Reason being there's zero in it for the company. I've even seen where someone did no upgrades at all. They took out a home equity loan to start a business, and then had a divorce, and then a government furlough, and then it just became a lot more complicated. They're also facing a short sale. But some people, they do everything right, but they just bought at the top of the market. Now they have to move sooner than expected due to relocation, family circumstances. Everything was done right, no extra liens, but the timeline shifts and the equity cushion isn't what they thought it would be. One thing I noticed after helping people through situations like this is that many homeowners don't actually know what their equity position looks like until they're already under pressure to make a decision. Sometimes payoff balances are higher than expected. Sometimes there's liens they didn't realize existed. And sometimes improvements added less value than they assumed they would. Or even thinking about selling in the next year or two, it's usually worth understanding that earlier rather than later. I'm always happy to look at the numbers with people and give them a realistic picture of where they stand, even if they're still in the planning stage and not ready to list yet. Because the earlier you understand your position, the more options you usually have. Curious where you stand? Feel free to give me a text or call me at 210-629-5622. And as always, open a new door in life.